Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, when it comes to retirement, when do you replace a car? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Tony Joe's here every Friday as he is today, and would love to hear from you and take your Car Corner questions. The lines are open. Number to call is 1-877-913-5357. Well, Tony Joe, I've been missing saying this. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well, considering all the factors, but we talked about this earlier, and, thing is, some days just don't go that well, but look at it, keep it in perspective, I'm healthy, I'm happy, so I guess I'm doing good.
Well, you said, as you went through this tirade of everything that's happened to you today, you said to me, and I poured transmission fluid all over my shirt. And I thought to myself, well, Tony Joe, you usually show up with something that's poured on your shirt.
Thank you, Bob. Usually that's spaghetti sauce or lunch or whatever, but today it's transmission fluid.
So. But I want to make a point.
You want to know what kind of cologne I'm wearing?
No,
Is
I
it
did.
1030 or 1040?
Yeah, can I? Okay, so that's actually pretty funny. I'll have to give that one to you. No, this is funny to me because you and I started doing this program together in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I took the radio show over from Don Spear on another radio station, not the one dear to our hearts as this one is. But I usually see you like clockwork every single week. Even like with Christmas, I always see you. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm going to get to see you. And because of just different circumstances, and you were sick one time, you didn't want to spread the goodwill, so you stayed back. Various things happened. Mm-hmm. Literally, I think this has been the fourth week. It's been 4 weeks since I've seen you, and that's the longest in this entire time I've known you that I've seen you once a week.
Yeah, it's been a while. So
had you missed me?
Well,
or were you just preoccupied thinking about yourself?
I'm thinking how to answer that diplomatically. Yes, I did.
It's not believable.
No, I did. But we talk on the phone. We keep in touch a little bit. So
people don't know what I endure during the week because I am the test dummy.
People don't know how much you have to put up with me. Yeah, I get it.
For the jokes that you come up with.
That's right.
And I mean, week in, week out, the man could write a book on his jokes.
I can always use Bob as my test person because if he even cracks a smile, it goes on the list. Most of the time, Bob, you try really hard not to even laugh. And I work hard on these jokes.
Well, I don't think I have to try.
At least you could just, pretend it was funny.
Yeah. Well, you see,
but you're a good friend. You tell me right out.
Exactly.
Don't use that.
I don't want to encourage you. And you often violate the joke on the radio show rule that I put down. So can't have any of those jokes on the radio, and all of a sudden you'll start off on a story, and I go, oh boy, here it comes.
And the funny thing about why you're so happy on Friday afternoons to see me is because the weekend's coming, and that goes back to your primitive brain, like all of us. When we were in high school, when we were in grade school, Friday afternoon was always the exciting part because we don't have to worry about school for 2 more days. It's like we're off for 2 days. Now, follow me here. I call those strong days, weekend days. Because Friday night, it was like, Friday night, I'm watching TV. I could do this homework, but it really isn't due till Monday, so why bother? I'm just going to enjoy myself. And you get these 2 strong days, Saturday and Sunday, And you know why they're strong days?
I can't wait.
Because the rest of them are weekdays.
Yeah. Well, Tony Joe.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. So, Tony Joe, I look forward to Fridays because I genuinely like to see you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the weekend.
Right.
1-877-913-5357. 1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open. Let's talk a little bit. You told me a statistic that I thought was really interesting and we talk about, of course, electric cars and how all that's going to look, what that looks like in the future. But you talked about the difference between a Tesla being on fire and a regular gas burning engine being on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you said.
Well, first of all, let me just make it clear that I am not trying to discourage anybody from electric vehicles. I don't think it's going to work out for a variety of different reasons, but it's going to be out there. It's going to be tried. And we're going to get into that later. There's a lot of reasons why. So I just want to bring information to people so they know.
Yeah, that's true. We're not always just slamming electric cars. Right. We're just giving
up the good points and the bad points.
The other side of the story. Let's go to line one. Talk to Steve from Kennedale. Steve, welcome to Prudent Money. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hello. Thank you, Bob, as usual, for providing this forum, and Tony Joe for your time. And, man, those nuggets of knowledge, you got to keep those coming.
Thank you.
Jokes are great.
See? Jokes are great, Bob.
Oh, yeah. Keep them coming. I'm the Steve guy from the 18-wheel world. I know, Tony, you and your brother, too. So I've done a lot of maintenance, but is there such thing in the replacing and flushing coolant world on F-150 pickup trucks? Is there such thing as an kind of like an immaculate evacuation of the coolant? So I guess what I'm saying is I went and get an inspection, and I had them go ahead and do the coolant. I went up to deal with disposal and all that, and I thought, hey, let them put a few beans on their plate. So it's all good, but when you get home, you lift the hood, you want to check your clamps and cap and all that and make sure well, there's not a drop. There's not a fingerprint. That little layer of dust you get under your hood. So I did call back up to the shop and said, hey, guys, it's okay, but how did you get the coolant out? No, we use suction. So my question is, Tony Joe, is that achievable to suction out the coolant without getting a drop, without touching anything?
No, I've never
without opening the drain plug, anything?
Right. No, I've never heard of that. Now, they do have coolant machines that you remove a heater hose and you make two connections and you have to run coolant in while you're flushing the old stuff out. So that may be one of the ways they did it. But as far as evacuating it, I've never heard of that. They sucking it out. Even if they said sucking it out, you might call them back and ask them, do you mean you used a flushing machine and it doesn't really suck anything out, Steve? It pours it in on one side and it pushes the clean stuff through, or the dirty stuff through. And then after it runs for a little while, it inserts the coolant right through the machine. So that's the only one I know of.
Yeah, there's no evidence, no fingerprints on any hose, no clamps, nothing. I mean, not even a shop rag wiping dust off that rubber area between the front of the grill and the radiator tank on the F-150. I just thought, how can this be? But, the level was about 3 inches low, and that was really what this call was going to be about. But I said, well, I'll just go ahead and get it changed. I'll mark it, keep track of the mileage, see where is this coolant possibly going. But, it holds 4 gallons. They sold me 1 gallon, and I'm like, I don't understand the math. So
that
I
is.
Just thought I would say.
I will say this.
I thought maybe I'm missing something.
No, I don't think you are. The math should be a 50-50 mixture at 4 gallons. Is going to be 2 gallons. I don't know how they did it. I'm not going to accuse them of anything that I don't know, but you might ask them do you use a coolant recovery machine? Do you flush it that way and install it through the heater system? How do you guys do it? I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking. But the math doesn't seem right either, because it's,
Yeah.
that sounds a
Just
little
nothing had
bit
been
lean.
disturbed.
Yeah, on 1 gallon.
So I took and got a antifreeze hydrometer, and I'm like to the max on the freezing. I'm like, what, 34 below it's protected to, and 268 boiling. So,
All right.
But I'm wondering, did they just add the 1 gallon to the reservoir there, put the cap on? Because when I got the truck back, engine was ice cold. It went to 1200 high idle immediately. It's like, I don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to see if there was a way to suction it out, something that I've missed, like new technology I didn't know about.
Unless my education is lacking, that is not anything I'm familiar with either. So I'm with you. I'd ask them.
And if they're evacuating on one side, you would think you'd have to open up somewhere else.
You would, otherwise it's going to suck everything into a collapse. But the coolant machines now, they do run through the heater hose system, and if you don't know where that is, you might look and see if the clamps look like they were disturbed.
Oh yeah, I did. Nothing, no fingerprints, nothing.
Nothing, huh?
It's just that's why I call it the evacuation, because no clamps were touched, not even the radiator plug in the bottom. So I just thought, I don't know.
Well,
so thank you for that. I just was wondering if there was some new technology.
No, not that I'm aware of. And if you find out something different, I wish you to prize us all. Call back. And, I'm not aware of one. So.
Well, it was supposed to go to the Ford. I guess that's the gold standard, the gold antifreeze. And
right.
It came back with and I did draw out about 6 ounces in a glass jar, and it looks perfectly clean. It looks like strawberry soda. There's no sediment, nothing floating.
Yep.
I don't get it. 87,000 miles. Well, excuse me. 55,000 on this antifreeze.
Right.
So,
well, Steve, call us back. I appreciate that call. Thank you for those comments, and we'll let you know what we can find. Thank you.
This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. We'll be right back.
The Word for Today is excited to announce the new official online home for the ministry of Pastor Chuck Smith and Kay Smith, PastorChuck.org. At PastorChuck.org, you'll have instant access to thousands of hours of verse-by-verse teaching by Pastor Chuck Smith from Genesis through Revelation, and full access to special messages on subjects such as prophecy and much, much more. Also at PastorChuck.org, a full library of great teachings by Kay Smith, and a section where you can read some of Pastor Chuck's books online, all free of charge. So visit the new official online home of the Word for Today and the ministry of Pastor Chuck and Kay Smith, PastorChuck.org.
In a time when we're prone to setting our minds on things of this world to solve the current crisis we're experiencing, let us trust in Jesus. He is the only one who can carry us through this confusion and unrest. We need to look more to God's Word, how it is properly taught for our comfort and hope. Please join us at 5 a.m. Saturday and 7 a.m. Sunday with Pastor Jason Wallace of Christ Presbyterian Church in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Or write Penfold Communications, P.O. Box 913, Layton, Utah 84041.
Hi, I'm Jan Markell, host of Understanding the Times. We're very excited to be a part of Bible School Radio. I hope you will join me Saturday, 10 a.m. for cutting-edge guests and the latest information to help you discern the truth, even the inconvenient truth. We'll help you understand our times and contend for the faith. That's Understanding the Times, Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on Bible School Radio, or anytime at olivetreeviews.org.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. The number to call today is 1-877-913-5357. Do have a line open, and I would love to hear from you today. Tony Joe's here to take your car corner questions. So I interrupted you because I didn't want to leave Steve hanging on the line. We were talking about the difference between a Tesla on fire and a regular car on fire. You didn't get to that, right?
Well, no, but I just wanted to point out something that I heard, like a lot of listeners probably did, about one of the awkward things about an electric car. And we're talking about a plug-in, not a hybrid. So many times I have kind of thought to myself, I don't see how the electric car is going to ever make a big splash. I think it's going to try, and we're going to see a lot of them, and then it's going to go away. And the reason for that is simple physics. We have packed just about as much energy into a box that will fit underneath a car, so we can drive that car roughly 300 miles, and then I'm not sure we're getting that on any of them, but that's about what you would get with a gas tank full of gasoline. So I'm just kind of making the analogy there, but there's so much energy, and it's so kind of dangerous in a lot of ways, and you're sitting on this thing, driving it around town. Okay, let's say nothing ever happens in that respect, but a car fire, I believe it was Philadelphia. I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter. It normally, on average, the fire department requires 500 or 600 gallons of water to put out a car fire that's fully engulfed. This Tesla was fully engulfed. That lithium-ion battery, it took not 500 or 600 gallons, 12,000 gallons to put this car fire out. So, this is due to the lithium-ion battery, and it is such a nasty chemical thing when it catches on fire. And you remember, Bob, we talked about all the Porsches that burned up on that cargo ship this past summer that was coming over. One car, one battery, and the whole shipload of cars was destroyed. So it's a very intense fire, very hot, very dangerous, chemical, toxic, takes tons of water to put it out. I just think that's one of the things that people should be aware of when they're considering buying an electric vehicle. I'm not saying don't buy one. I'm saying that's just some of the things that you want to also keep in mind. And knowing that that kind of energy is packed into a package that's small enough to fit under the car to drive around in makes me a little concerned about the potential energy there is so great. Of course, sometimes you park it in the garage, and we've heard about car fires that, the whole house is gone. There's a lot of things that can happen with that kind of potential energy ready to just let go. We want to let it go in a controlled way. Sometimes it doesn't see it that way, and it lets go in a much more dangerous fashion, and that's what concerns me.
It makes me think when you have a regular gas engine versus an electric car, which is more likely to blow up, or would either one of them blow up if a fire started in the engine? On
a regular gas car, if the fire started under the hood,
or maybe another way to ask it: why don't cars always blow up?
Oh, why don't they blow up? They very seldom do. Now, it does happen. Don't get me wrong, but very seldom do cars blow up like you see on TV. There's no oxygen, Bob. There is very little oxygen available in the gas tank, and it's built that way and designed that way, and it's even more so today designed that way than ever before. With the introduction of a system for pollution that we call the EVAP system, it's a kind of an open system that closes some valves, and it's very fills up with fumes and liquid, but there's very little oxygen. So more times than not, often, the fire department comes, puts the fire out before the car blows up like you see on TV. Okay, now here's something else interesting. While a car's burning, sometimes you hear explosions. It's not like on TV where it's a fireball, but you hear explosions. You know what that is? The tires blow up.
Oh, okay.
The tire, it's pressurized with air. Once it gets melting to a point where it just blows, and you hear this big explosion, it's not the gas tank, it's the tire.
So will a Tesla more than likely blow up before a gas?
I don't think a Tesla could blow up, period. Now, we're talking about an impact and the battery gets smashed. I suppose it may look like somewhat of a small explosion, but the problem is not exploding. The problem is fire, out of control, really hot fire that you can't control like you can with a gasoline fire or something. You can't put foam on it. You can't douse it. You have to pour water on it in a large amount just to keep that stuff from spreading around, and it just burns and burns and burns no matter how much water you put on it. It's so hot that it just continues to burn. And the amount of water it takes to cool off the lithium is just a ridiculous amount of water, just to cool it down enough to keep it from flaming up anymore and catching on fire. So 600 gallons compared to 12,000 is just something to kind of think about.
1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open if you've got a question for Tony Joe. Yeah, that's when you were talking about you don't see this takeover of, let's call it or phase in, a massive phase in of, and everything turns electric. I think there's really two reasons why you'll ultimately could see it, but you probably won't see it in the time frame that they're claiming that it will be.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. I don't mean never. I mean in the next 5 or 10 years.
Right, right. No, I think, in fact, I'll say this and you can shoot me a number how long you think it's going to take. But by the way, I remember back in 2017, 2016, we were talking about this very same thing, that they were predicting 2021 as a date that you're going to see these massive amounts of electric cars that we don't see. But I think that the biggest problem, and I think you'll agree with this, two big problems. First is the massive build-out of infrastructure that you need to
accommodate
this. Sure. And then Tony Joe, not even the massive amount of infrastructure, the massive amount of land to hold this infrastructure. What do you do in a city like New York or a city like San Francisco or L.A., where you've got all that. You got me all thrown off now.
I know what you mean, Bob. And let me just say this. There's another thing on top of the two good things that you brought up, and that is the power grid.
Well, that was the second one, yeah.
You're not going to get... the present administration thinks we're going to have enough electricity with wind and solar in the next 2 or 3 years to provide all of our energy needs. Are you kidding me? If you're pushing electric cars and you want everybody to drive an electric car, you cannot, I don't think it's physically possible to add to the grid enough to accommodate everybody buying an electric car like they want us to all go to. It makes no sense. Even I am nobody, and even I can see that's not going to work. I just can't understand the mindset of the people in the administration thinking that that's going to work. I just can't. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. You know it's not going to work. I know it's not going to work. How come they don't know it's not going to? Yet that's the agenda they're pushing.
The funniest thing was they were asking. I can't think of the guy's name.
Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. Ask him about the grid, and he said, "Well, we'll just change it and make it
right.
To make it work for all the electric cars." Yeah, poof, like that.
If you don't want to buy gasoline anymore and you're sick of the high price of gasoline, simply go buy, like I did, go buy an electric car. Well, Bob, an electric car, $60,000, $70,000. A lot of people can't just go out and buy an electric car. And if they did, we go back to the arguments we were just talking about the grid isn't going to handle it. And, here's something to think about. Just think about this for 1 minute. I've pictured this in my mind. I do not own an electric car. I've never seen electric cars being charged up. But if it takes 45 minutes to an hour to charge a car, just pretend you and the wife and the kids are going to see Grandma in Georgia. And you got to stop somewhere along the way to recharge, right? So normally when you pull into a charging station, I'm not going to say gas station because now they're going to have charging stations. It's all set up. The infrastructure's there. You pull up and there's 2 people in front of you in line.
Right.
Do you realize that it's not like gasoline? You're not going to wait 5 minutes and get up to the pumps. The first guy's going to take an hour to charge. Then the second guy's going to get up there. That's going to be an hour. Then you finally get up there. That's going to be an hour. You're not going to get instant like you do with a gas station where there's 2 or 3 people in front of you. Yeah, you might have to wait 5 or 10 minutes.
I think said another way, this is today. If you ever want to own an electric car, today's the best time to own an electric car while there's not as many of them out there. Do you know what I mean? Because if you know where your charging stations are, you got one at the house, there's not that big of a pull on the grid. Probably the best time to own one is today.
Yeah, if you had a charging station put in your house, like you most oftentimes have to do, and you wanted to drive your car locally and knew everything, where you were going and so forth, I guess this is probably a good time to own one.
This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.